Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Real Thesis podcast. I am your host, Shalini, and this podcast is where I love to analyze stories on screen. And today we have a very special episode, and I am joined by special guest, Liana. Liana, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what we're talking about today?
Yeah, I would love to. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Shalini. My name is Liana. I'm one of the producers on this podcast, and I'm a writer, I'm a music critic, and I am BTS Army. Okay, and I'm bringing that up specifically because we're talking about BTS today.
Yes. I usually do talk about films on here. This is kind of, what I've talked about this whole time, but we wanted to do a very special episode because BTS just, I think they have such rich content and they really do tell stories through their work, through their lyrics, their performances, their music videos. And this is something that Liana has written about in the past. And so we thought it would be a great idea to turn it into an episode and to dive deep and to examine like a very specific, well, to look at some very specific performances and discuss the storytelling and the narrative that BTS is giving us through that. So we're kind of veering off from what's normal, but it's a very fun and rich episode. So
Mhm.
yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah. I really appreciate it because, like Shalini said, I've written about this before, and BTS are really great storytellers. And because this whole podcast is about storytelling, it seemed like a great fit. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my favorite band. We are talking today comparing Dionysus song and the song Black Swan and how they are two sides of the same coin exploring success and fear.
Yeah. And I think the reason like we decided to choose this, and we had talked about this, is like, you said it was two sides to the same coin, but also like it really talks about their rise to fame and what it's like to be on top. And I don't think as musicians, like we get this side of the story a lot. We usually hear stories about musicians as they're struggling, as they're trying to like get famous, and they're very transparent about what they're going through, where their head is at this time. So
Mhm.
we get to see it in their music and the lyrics and stuff. And so I think it's a unique part of their journey that we're getting to look at. And
And
yeah.
it's incredibly vulnerable because BTS is like one of the biggest artists in the world. And particularly when these songs were released, they're on top of their game at that career, and they only have increased since then. So to admit these fears, to admit this internal turmoil that they were feeling at that time is incredibly brave, incredibly vulnerable. And part of what we're talking about this today is because that's what BTS does, that they are so open about this inner turmoil, the inner thoughts, these inner fears that they experience because they want it to be okay to talk about these. They want other people to feel comforted with being like, hey, we all have our own things going on. And like, if they're talking about it, I can talk about it too. And like, we can find solace and strength in each other to get through it.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of like put this in, the same category as like films and stuff. Like films are meant to tell a story and to make us feel a certain way about the world. And, maybe not all musicians, but BTS definitely does that. And I think that's why it makes sense for me to talk about them in that way, because like you said, like they allow listeners to just really like reflect on their own journeys and, to be able to see themselves in the music and in the struggles that BTS is being vulnerable about.
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, before we go any further, can you give us a bit of a background on the band and who they are and when they came up and stuff?
Would love to. So, BTS is a seven-member K-pop group from South Korea. They were formed in 2013 and they consist of RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook. It is going to be three rappers, that's RM, Suga, and J-Hope, and then four vocalists, Jimin, V, and Jungkook. And that's going to be really important because they are primarily a hip hop group. At least they started out that way. They are known for this innovative blend of hip hop and pop and mixing a whole ton of different genres and different sounds. They're also really known for these really personal lyrics that focused, like we said before, on their own introspective journeys as well as the struggles of today's youth. And they are known for incredible performers, extremely intricate, highly synchronized choreography, and just show-stopping performance. They are a beast of performers. So they kind of had these like all kill kind of style. They, as I said, started out in 2013 and quickly became very popular, but they broke out internationally and especially in the West and America around 2016, 2017, where they continued to rise to fame. They just kind of kept going higher and higher than anyone thought was possible. Um, and our story today, we're going to kind of focus on 2019, 2020. And they were at that moment, height of their career. They are dominating sales, dominating like critic reviews, dominating award shows. They have an insane amount of cultural impact. They are bringing billions of won to Korea. They are winning, they are earning medals of recognition from the government. Like they're seriously on another level. And they're about to release their biggest album to date in 2020. And then the pandemic hits. And instead of the pandemic stopping them, BTS grew even more. They released that album, the biggest one, and we're going to talk about it. But they exploded on a whole new level during the pandemic. They are like everywhere. They have whole new levels of fame. And then in 2022, they suddenly announced that they were pausing group activities. They cited burnout, and they were said that they were going to focus on solo work, and later announced that they were going to go into military enlistment, which was mandatory in South Korea. Um, and this was really, really unprecedented because, like I just said, they were on top of their careers, and almost no one in their right mind, if you're on top of your career, no one in their right mind is pausing work. But they said that they were burnt out and they paused. And they said that they wanted, paraphrasing here, but they are pursuing solo work that allows them to explore their own musical identities, their own self expression, more avenues that they self exploration, their own avenues. And this was all with the intention of getting back together as a group. And I'm going to emphasize that because this was not um, oftentimes when we see bands call hiatus or say we're doing solo work, we know that means it's over. That was not what BTS were doing. They were trying to say, hey, we need a minute because we are so badly burnt out and we need to do this side quest kind of. We need to do this and we want to come back as BTS. Kind of a short kind of run around, but basically our story is going to be focusing on that moment of 2019, 2020 when they were already at the top of their careers. And that was the moment that they were experiencing burnout. And we didn't know it at the time, but they were.
Yeah, and I think you really see it. Well, it's interesting you say that because, like, let's dive into the first thing that we're going to talk about, which is Dionysus, because
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, like, I think Dionysus is really them at the top of their career. And specifically, we are talking about the 2019 MMA performance, which to
Mm-hmm.
me, like, I mean, you know BTS and their history so much more than I do, but in looking back at things predated this performance, I was like, wow, like this is a very clear leveling up. It's a very clear, like, it's just, it feels very much like height of their career.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is what, earlier you said, it's like two sides of the same coin. Like they're at the height of their career. And you want to say more about that? Because I think you can explain it.
We're saying it's two sides because they're at the height of the career and they're also terrified. And that is what the song Black Swan is about. That's what the song Interlude Shadow, which we're also going to touch on. They were terrified of the success of how much it has grown, of how much it didn't feel like it was in their control anymore. They're afraid of falling, they're afraid of failing, even though they were at top of the world.
Yeah. And like, I think, with Dionysus, like we're getting like the happy, energetic, thrill side of it. And with Black Swan, we're kind of seeing more of like the anxiety and the fear around being in this place.
Mhm.
And we think they're like it's almost like, yeah, tell the story together, which is why we're looking at both together today.
Yeah.
Um,
And just to, again, prep on what we're going to talk about today, we're talking about the songs and we're also talking about these specific performances. So we're comparing the MMA 2019 performance with the Black Swan two music videos because BTS is both not just lyrics, they're also performances, and all of it comes together to tell the story. As Dionysus is a song from their 2019 Map of the Soul Persona album. It is a rap rock synth pop song. It is huge. It's a bombastic. It has multiple hooks. It has rock screams. It has a trap beat. It is very, very hyped. And its song is, and we're gonna go more into it, but the song is all about the joy and pain of creating something. Um, and yes, do you want to tell us about MMA?
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know, which I didn't know, I had no idea what MMA was. But the MMA Performance stand for the Melon Music Awards, and it is hosted by Cacao Entertainment, and they have an online store called Melon, which is why it's called the Melon Music Awards. And it actually started as like an online award because it's an online store, but then I think it's been live since like 2014 or 13, and it's usually held in Seoul, Korea, Seoul, South Korea. It's been in some other places, but more times than not, it's in Seoul. And this particular 2019 MMAs, BTS won. Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna say this is one of the biggest Asian music award shows, like biggest ones. Go on.
Yeah, no, that's it's yeah, I think I was making it seem like it's big in South Korean culture, which it is, but yeah, Asian Music Awards. There's even like Western performers that are nominated, and there's like a whole category for like Western performances. So it is huge. So BTS took away Song of the Year for Boy with Love at the 2019 awards. They won Album of the Year for Map of the Soul Persona, Artist of the Year, Record of the Year, Best Dance Award, which is awesome, and the Popularity Award. So they kind of swept away all the major categories for this year.
Yes, which is insane. And it's also, I think, their fourth year, third or fourth year that they were
Mm.
sweeping. So they had been sweeping at least for a couple of years. Um, and at this performance, because these award shows go on for several hours, and even now they go on for days, BTS was performing had a 40-minute set in the middle of the performance, which is this, and the set ended with 20-minute performance of Dionysus, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really hard to like convey. If you we're gonna link it below, we're gonna link the whole performance. But we definitely say if you don't have time for the whole performance, definitely go to like I think was it minute I forget which minute, like minute 17 or something, and that's when the Dionysus performance starts. But yeah, I you talked a little bit about Dionysus before, and like in doing my research, I kind of researched a bit of like we're going to definitely dive into it, but I want to mention that Dionysus he's very obviously the god of wine, but he's also the god of theater, of madness. He's the god of foreigners. He is the god of epiphanies. And he is known to induce insanity, to be able to induce shapeshifting, and he brings joy, ecstasy, and sometimes rage. And he's very much associated with like bacchanalias and stuff, and that's why all this stuff comes from. And it was said that his wine, music, dance freed followers from self-consciousness, from fear and care of bigger world issues, and empowered them to throw off the restraints of the powerful. And he's also known as the twice born god. There's Dionysus is like an etymology of twice born. I also want to say that there's like big festivals. There's Dionysia, which was like a festival honoring the god Dionysus, and it was always held in the winter months of December or January, which I think is poignant because this performance takes place in early December. So it's almost like a Dionysia. And it always had like dramatic and comedic performances. It had like a procession of people who are carrying like flowers and loaves of bread and wine and stuff, all in honor of it. And it's this Dionysia that is thought to have brought about like Western theatrical culture. Like it was this idea of honoring
I know that.
Dionysus through dramatic and comedic performances. So there's a big performance element, like mythologically around Dionysus. And I think that kind of ties into like why this performance is just so grand and why it's
Mhm.
so like huge. Because I do incorporate a lot of those elements and it really touches on the lyrics too, which you were talking about.
That's amazing. I really did not know that. And yeah, that does get reflected in the lyrics. So connecting Dionysus to why they may have chosen it, or at least part of it, is that the Korean word for alcohol is sul, and the Korean word for art is yesul. And they're kind of very similar word. If you look at the characters, they're very similar. And the song is kind of basically about getting drunk on your art. They relate to art as if it's alcohol. They are like gods looking out, oh, creating massive amount of art, creating this high kind of art. They call themselves the mad artists, which is like Dionysus causes this madness. They're making something completely different. And they're also kind of mentioning the fact that like these songs are never coming easily without the pain of creating. Like they reference Dionysus thyrsus, which was like a staff covered in greenery, is like specifically like ivy and greenery and stuff like that. It that symbolized prosperity, fertility, hedonism, pleasure, and their and the song becomes the thyrsus, but they also very specifically say a broken thyrsus. It's like kind of shattered because of there was pain in creating. Um, also, I just want to mention because you said that Dionysus is born twice. That is another idea that comes up in BTS because there's a long conversation about idols versus being artists. Idols are not typically considered real artists because they are largely the art that they're making is produced by the company. And so people are like, oh, you're not a real artist. And BTS has often fallen into that conversation because they do make their own art and as well as other idols. Idols are still artists, but BTS have fought for that right to be like, no, we are artists and we are idols. Um, so the whole idea, it's very much, it's a party. They are getting drunk. They're getting everyone else drunk on their art, and they are Dionysus, and they're the gods of wine and art and chaos.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like what I mean, that's what they're saying in the lyrics, but like it shows in the musical performance. And I'll give like again, definitely go watch it if you've not seen it, but I'm going to give a quick overview on what the
Yes.
musical performance is. So we mentioned that it starts 17 minutes into a BTS performance, and um, it starts with just a person blowing a horn, and then these people that are dressed in very Romanesque warlike, like very Spartan looking army gear march out. Um, and we're kind of introduced to each BTS member kind of as if they were a god. So
Mhm.
first we get V, who is thought to be Apollo. He's kind of standing within this like temple structure. There's like aerial dancers. There's a lot of light around it. It's very daylit. And when they introduce them, like the song No More Dream is playing. And then Jin comes out on a horse and, oh, do
Sorry,
you have a thought?
no, I just wanted to include they're going through their discography. So No More Dream is their first song, and each one is going to go through a song leading up to the
Ah,
present.
thank you. Okay, I'll
Okay.
pause after and I'll say the song and you can tell us.
Okay.
And I will say there's a lot of interpretations around which god they are. So
Mhm.
this is not hard and fast, but this is just what I'm
Yeah, I had
saying.
it totally different. I had him as Aries.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So then Jin comes out, and I said Jin is either Ares or Athena because it's very like god and warlike. But people think it's Athena because of who Jin is as a person. But Athena is the goddess of justice, if I'm not mistaken. So they're like
Oh, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
way Jin is and how he aligns with stuff, it would be more the god of justice. But he comes out on a horse,
Mhm.
and that's when the army men are surrounding him, and Danger plays.
Mhm.
Or
I,
Danger the next. You don't
Danger is
know.
the next song.
Okay.
I'm just saying the songs are basically going through the
Oh,
present.
oh, that's cool. Okay. And then Jimin does this very beautiful artistic dance. Um, it's very like flowy. He's got like this long flowing. It's almost like one of those like fabric dances. It's very
Yeah,
beautiful.
modern, definitely modern contemporary style dance.
Yeah, modern contemporary. He's in white and he's kind of just dancing alone, and it's all like lit. They think that that was like supposed to represent Artemis, the moon god, but to me it's very
Oh,
romantic. So I was like, it could
I
be love as
I thought
well.
I thought Aphrodite. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I first thought Aphrodite, but then someone else said the moon, and I was like, I could see both because it was very sensual and beautiful. And the song was "I Need You," so it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I could think that could be love. Suga is a very cool performance because he comes out like on kind of like a set of stairs, and the screens around him are all fire. So people say that's either Hades, the god of the underworld, or Hephaestus, the
Hephaestus.
god of fire. And the song that plays is Fire.
Yes.
Go figure. And then Jungkook has a very beautiful dance where he's dancing in water, and it's almost like he's controlling the water. Like the way his clothing is, it's interacting with the water, and he's dancing in like a very shallow tank to the song Save Me, and he's
Mhm.
supposed to be Poseidon.
Mhm.
And then J-Hope comes out with a bunch of backup dancers, and they're dancing with strobe lights, which is super cool because they're interacting with the strobe lights. The song is Fake Love, and everyone says that's Zeus with the lightning bolts.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
Apollo. Okay.
Oh, you had Apollo. Why'd you have Apollo?
God of Light.
Yeah. I thought the strobe lights, because there's one point where the strobe light comes directly in front of him. So I was like, oh, this is
Oh,
Zeus.
I love
But
that.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I like that. And then lastly, RM comes out with the staff, the Thrasis. Is that how you say it?
Thrices,
Thrasis?
I think.
Thrisis. He comes out with the Thrisis, and he is Dionysus.
Hmm.
And I will mention that like as each person is introduced, a light bulb falls into place, and then once they're all introduced, all the light bulbs fall into place. And then the stage goes dark,
Wait, actually,
and
before you continue, I just wanted to say about the solo performances. even for this felt a little unusual because, like, for most K-pop groups, you'll have a couple of standout dancers or dancers who are like specialized in the dancing, and they will do a solo performance. And even if there is like each member gets to shine, it's usually a few seconds. It's usually like a quick mode. Like they like K-pop groups are groups. They perform together. If they have a solo, it's again short. To have this moment where each member is having this grand entrance, having their own choreography, is very, again, unusual. And it's really emphasizing, like, no, no, no. Each one of these guys are on top of their game. They are the gods of their game. Like, they are on top of the world. And it was really cool. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
And
It's funny because, oh, go ahead.
oh no, sorry, I was gonna say, I was like, maybe older groups can do this, something like this, but like, yeah, like you have to be very well established in order to like have a solo moment like this.
Yeah. Like you had sent it to me and you were like, oh, the performance starts at this minute. So I just went to that minute and I started the first time I saw it. And I was like, one, I forgot that this is an MMA. This is a performance at a music award. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, this is a concert. Like you
Mm.
forget that it's not a BTS concert. And then two, it was such a like they took their time. Like I ran through it, but yeah, each was like a 20 to 30-second clip of each song. Like it's really each of them taking their time in their introduction. And it's like also halfway through this 40-minute performance that they're
Right.
like taking their time to introduce it. But this is all part of the lead up to the Dionysus song. So it's like all
Mhm.
part of a narrative, which is why they did it. But
And and like just
yeah.
saying again about the songs, like again, they start from their first song and go through all of their like title tracks. And Dionysus wasn't the title track, but they're ending with "This is where we are now."
Yeah, very much so. So, like, once the performance is done, these girls with flowers start on stage, and the camera runs them as they're throwing flowers and starting the procession. And then we have these people in like suits. They kind of remind me of the mask, like
Oh yeah,
from
yeah.
the comics. But yeah, they come out in suits and hats, and they march out. And then we have several people come out in like more traditional garb. I don't even know how to explain it, but there's like two groups of people that come out in more traditional garb, and they're either on the horse or like leading a horse. And then the stage opens and we have like a temple setting filled with like harp players and just lyre players.
Mhm.
And the BTS band is sitting at a table in the center of this.
This is more getting into what we were going to talk about was the visual composition of the performance. But yes, so basically they're sitting there, they perform the whole song. Lots of backup dancers. It's a very, very high energy song that we're going to go into in a minute. Uh, Props are moving around, and then there's like literally two dance breaks, which is absolutely insane. Extremely huge performance. Okay, so talking about some of these composition, the details. Again, we're going to throw up some screenshots here. This is a really huge performance. Think Super Bowl, think Grammys. Like that's the closest Western equivalent we can get to this. If you need a Western equivalent to this, um, it is the idea is extravagance. It's abundance. It's almost wealth, and it's this idea of like, yeah, you're kind of looking at the gods of Mount Olympus. Um, and part of that, at least for me, was kind of showing that I'm like, they wanted to show like yes they're showing that they're Dionysus in this, but they are showing that they're on top of their game. Like this is no one else can do this, no one else is pulling this off, no one else like has the resources to or the skills to, but also like you're not at that level. Like no one else was on their level at this time, and the industry has been trying to get on their level for the last how many years is it, 13 years, and they still have not gotten to their level yet. But there's a lot of really cool details, and the thing is like they use a lot of Greek references, definitely. All the screens behind them and around them are Greek columns. Obviously, the women are like, and the men too, often are like dressed in Greek clothes. Um, but there's also Korean influences. BTS has never forgotten their Korean influence and their Korean cultural heritage. Um, I think the horn kind of reminded me of daishita, which is like a genre of military music. And in Korea. And it's usually performed while marching or as a performance, especially welcoming foreign heads of state or in ceremonial duties or in state events. There's also a Shuga song called Daishita, which is what made me think of it, and it involves a horn. There's also these again, I need to emphasize how big this is. There's maybe about 50 dancers up there. There's literal live horses on stage. There's giant inflatable leopards, because that's
Oh yeah.
Dionysus's animal, on either side. Giant inflatable leopards. There's aerial dancers. There's people whose only job is to just stand in the background and pretend to play the harp or to fan. Like, you're literally just having people, background actors, background dancers, just be there as part of the ambiance. Like, it is huge. And then you have smoke, you have lights going on, and you have like, and this is going to be part of the props, like they have these tables that are like painted white and gold. Like, they look like an Olympian feast, and the tables like move in and out, the chairs move in and out. Like, this is a huge performance.
Yeah. I think it's hard to visualize, but like it really is Super Bowl level. But the stage is like a main stage, and then it has like two long wings that come off it. So like it's not the kind of stage that we would see at like necessarily the Grammys or something here in America. Like it's much bigger. So that's why they're able to have so much of this stuff on there.
Yeah.
And it's all really, really symbolic of, like you were saying, it's symbolic of like they're representing themselves as gods, and they're representing themselves as looking down on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that they, as you're saying about the stage, that they utilize every element of it and they use every space. I think that's something that BTS does fairly well, is they don't really tend to leave a lot of empty space, at least not intentionally, especially in their music. Like, you're not going to have a dull moment or a moment where leading gently into it. Like, they're like, no, we're going to hit you with this. We are using your space and your time wisely. Also, kind of, if it's like a procession of royalty, like starting from the women who are just, I took it as just like the nymphs that were followers of
Yeah.
Dionysus, that they were,
Oh, yeah.
they
Yeah.
throw flowers to pave the way, and then you have the dancers come out, you have the horses come out, you have like, it's like a procession literally
Yeah.
welcoming the kings. And
Yeah.
I like that the doors slide back to reveal BTS sitting at the table. But that's kind of like gates, like it just felt like gates like opening up to reveal.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Yeah. And they look like they're almost in like a heaven-like setting too. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
guess heaven for us, but it's like what you would think of Mount Olympus is
Mhm.
as yeah, this like unearthly kind of setting. And yeah, can we jump into costumes or incorporate costumes or
Yes, I was just gonna say one more thing if that's okay.
yeah.
Um, the as I have said, like, it's about the extravagance, it's about the abundance of it. And so even if you didn't know what Dionysus was about, you're getting the idea of it. You're getting that this is about to be high level. Like, this is the next level. This is next level, and and once you watch the performance itself, you're like, oh, this is kind of like a party. Like, so that's what BTS does so well, is that they, again, visually tell, and that's why we have to talk about the performance, because like, it's not just lyrics, it's not just the music, it is the performance itself that all serve to tell the story, including
Yeah.
costuming.
Yeah. There's a lot I wanted, or at least some things I wanted to say about costuming. Like for me, I think like again, like I don't know BTS intimately, and so I know them, but when I was examining them in the years and things they've done prior to this, like the thing that stood out to me is that they are dressed significantly more sharply and just more on point than anything that I've really seen before. And I even looked at their MMA performance from 2018 and I was like, oh wow, like they had a very like boy band vibe. Like they did have
Mhm.
costume changes. It wasn't 40 minutes, but it was still like a good production, like a high energy production with background dancers, but it wasn't a ginormous set. And it wasn't like the costumes they were wearing were just more like on their brand, which is very like boy band, somewhat street style. And like, I
Mhm.
think the thing that stood out to me is that they are dressed sharp. They are all dressed
Mhm.
in white shirts, black pants. I was looking through the lines. They're distinctly wearing, at this point in 2019, they were Dior ambassadors, I believe. And so they were working with Kim Jones in particular, who dressed them.
Mhm.
And she really dressed them throughout 2019 for different events with this idea of like timelessness and like style and poise and stuff. So I believe they're wearing Dior, they're wearing Prada, they're wearing Alexander McQueen. And if you go through their spring lines, like this is December 2019. So if you go look at their spring lines, like the line that drops in February, some of the clothes they're wearing are from the spring lines that are yet to drop.
Mm,
So they're like, it
I know
really,
that.
yeah, they're emphasizing this idea that they're so like, they're leaders. Like
Mm,
visually, it's emphasizing this idea that they are leaders and that they are like influencers, or that they are icons, like you said.
mhm.
Um, and I also like, we need to talk about the guys in suits, but basically,
I know,
like,
right?
you mentioned the girls come out and then these men walk out in suits, and everything is kind of like has a Greek vibe to it.
Exactly. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say everything has a Greek vibe to it. And the thing that doesn't fit are these men in suits. And the only thing that I could find, I do have an interpretation
Wait,
of it. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
because and very specifically, I've been dying to ask this question, like what's with the brown suits? The brown suits, but they have these capes. I have a single shoulder cape, and they're wearing fedoras, I think. Okay, yes.
Yeah. So one thing I did catch is that I think the style with the cape is from the Prada spring line. Not that exact style, because I think it's a modification of a suit can be thrown on,
Hmm.
but it's that color. So I think that was just a different way of them saying, like, we are like physically, they themselves are dressed very nice, but like it was my way of being like, look at how we influence culture in all these
Yeah.
ways. Like, look at how far our reach is. Like I think it's worth breaking down. We talked about the flower maidens, but like for me, I did not understand why you're having these modern people. And to me, they kind of actually represented like business and corporations in a way, and like in their influence, because you
Oh.
have such a mishmash on stage. You got these, you got the leopard or jaguar, which is, I didn't know was a symbol of Dionysus till you told me. And then you have
Mhm.
the flower maidens, and these guys march out in suits. They kind of look like mannequins, like the way
Mm.
their makeup is. They look very
Yeah.
like monochrome,
Yeah. And
and
they
they're all the same
march.
shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they march. So they look like mannequins. And then you have the people in more traditional garbs, the horses, and then eventually you have backup dancers that are in more like street style clothes. So to me, I was like, it was such a mishmash of culture, but it was showing
Mhm.
the different aspects of culture that BTS can influence.
I
And both with
love
the outfit and the
that.
color, my interpretation was fashion, but in the fact that they're even wearing suits, it's like the influence over economy and
I
business. And
love that so much. I absolutely, I completely agree. They don't quote me on this number, but it's something like 2 to 5% they contribute to the entire South Korean economy.
that's insane.
It might be, I can't remember if it's 2% and now they're expecting it to be 5%. Like it's something like that. Like they literally percent contribute, they themselves, not K-pop, they themselves contribute to like a percentage of the economy, which is
That's
wild.
insane. I wish I could be on that level as a creator. That sounds so cool.
Right?
Or
Uh,
stressful. I don't know.
that's what our essay is about today. It's both.
Yeah.
Um, but exactly, that's exactly what I was going to say is that they bring in so many different influences. There's Korean influences, there's American influences, there's Greek influences happening here. Um, I think it's really cool how like immediately after the men in the brown suits comes the men on the horses with a little bit more traditional looking Korean outfits, but they're still actually kind of modernized. I thought that was a very cool combination. And you mentioned the backup dancers that they are mix of modern and Korean and Black American hip hop. Um, and there's probably maybe a dash of Korean influencing, but it's definitely like hip hop influence and Black American influence. And that's also really important because BTS is really, their music, obviously being hip hop, really heavily influenced by Black artists. And they continue to be influenced today by Black artists. So they are pulling everything together. This is multicultural because even though BTS is South Korean, they touch globally. They have so much influences and they pull so many influences.
Yeah. It's when you're talking about the traditional garb, I was like, I actually even looked up traditional garb because I was like, it looked very modernized. And to me, and
Modernized.
the people in the traditional outfits, like it made me think of almost like farmers or something
Hmm.
like that. But I feel like in general, it was touching on culture in Korea, but they were all in black and white. And they had elements of
Yeah.
style. Like they still had suit-like elements to their
Hmm.
clothing. Um, and the backup dancers I found very strange because they had a lot of like tassels or like
Hmm.
things that just, I guess, moved, like visually it caused a lot of movement.
Mm.
But it felt very 70s to me. And I was like, why did they choose these outfits for these dancers?
Interesting.
And I think, well, on one hand, like the prominent colors are like people are wearing more like neutral colors than you see red, which I think kind of
Hmm.
represents the wine, and then like pink, which can represent like love and
Hmm.
euphoria and stuff. Um, but the thing that I really take away is that BTS is dressed better than every single person on that stage.
Yeah. They're
Like, and
wearing,
it's,
is it black
yeah,
suits? It's black suits, but it's ornate. Like they have like jewelry on it. Not jewelry.
like rhinestones
Ornaments,
and
rhinestones,
ruffles and
ornaments on it.
ties and
Yeah.
like yeah, and I was like it's definitely it's like they're showing like a distinct not class difference but status difference between them and the backup
Hmm.
dancers and between them and like
Hmm.
the culture. Like it's like they are at the top and all of these things that they're influencing is like being influenced by them. Like they stand
Yeah.
out. Whereas
And oh,
in
yeah, gone.
well, in past performances and even in the intro, like they're sometimes dressed the same as the backup dancers.
Hmm.
Like they're dressed the same, they'll just be wearing one shirt color that's different. So
Hmm.
this stood out to me, the fact that it's like they're just
Everyone is
like,
dressed so. I'm having my little monk here who's helping me talk. Um, Everyone is dressed to the nines, and then BTS is dressed to the tens. Like
yeah,
they are. It
yeah,
almost in some cultures how they're like everyone to the wedding dress up because the bride's gonna still be out dressing all of you. Like it's that kind of vibe where you're like, you know who this party is for. You're never not gonna know who this party is for. And that's
yeah,
BTS. And it's simple in the sense that it suits, but they make it their own.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, and to me, to me, maybe you could speak on this more, but like, especially because the Boy with Love comes out before this, and the music video and the performances are so cute
Hmm.
and pop colorish and stuff that to see this, it's like a distinct departure.
It's
And like these are
so
from boys to men kind of thing.
I
Not the band,
love
the transition.
I think I wasn't quite on the scene yet, so don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure Dionysus is the B-side, is the second track that got promoted after Boy with Love. And I love it because okay, I'm trying not to go off tangent here. Boy with Love was itself a response to K-pop. K-pop was being very edgy. Boy with Love was like, we're gonna be really cutesy and colorful pink. They're gonna be pink. But Dionysus having that be the B side is like, yeah, we're still, as you said, men. We're still top of this game. We're still like performers in hip hop. Like it's kind of being like we can be cute and we can be cool.
And I had in my notes, like when we first see their outfits too, I was like, they kind of remind me of Maestro outfits. I don't know why, but
Yeah, that's totally the vibe.
the last thing I'll say is that I felt like their outfits were maybe I'm saying they're timeless. Maybe they're not timeless, but they felt more timeless. Like it kind of led to this deity idea. Like it's not placing it within a certain time or culture, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe. But yeah, let's talk about
I love it.
choreography a bit more.
Let's talk about choreography. It's my favorite part of this whole entire performance. There's a lot that we can think, but basically the whole performance is really, really high energy. So this performance starts um, with them all sitting at the table. They're looking still as statues, staring down at the camera. They look bored and they look hungry. And then the song starts, and they start as if they're coming alive, almost like a painting, which we're going to see this come up later. They're coming alive, and everything starts moving. We're having like RM jumps up on the table, and behind them, the other boys are doing a like in sync dance, and then they all come down off the thing. And I mentioned before that there's tables and chairs that are moving throughout this performance. The guys are jumping on and off the table. So not only is this like a high energy dance that they're doing, that they are really like climbing up, climbing off, jumping up and down off tables.
And not even just like jumping off, but they're like jumping behind and hiding while like two dancers will be on the
Yeah,
table. So it's like a major prop that they're interacting with and they're constantly engaged.
they're constantly engaged. And that's something I was going to say was that there's multiple sections where it's like one or two are singing to each other or singing together. the the energy still keeps moving. There are people dancing behind them. The other guys are still dancing. Like I said before that they know how to use their time and space well, and this is a really good example because they keep you visually interested. They keep the tension of the performance high. Even if two people are singing, everyone's moving. Everyone is still moving. The thing is moving. The table itself is moving. Like they are still going and still thing. And there is sorry, I'm just putting all my thoughts here. And then you can help break these down a little bit more. The main choreography of the performance is this, they kind of mime drinking. I forget the exact move. They're miming drinking, they're touching their heads, going crazy. And there's also a lot, because the song has a lot of hooks, there's a lot of also call and response in the song. And you can see that because, like I mentioned, there's duos singing. So, like, it'll be RM and Jin. It'll be Jin and J-Hope. It'll be V and J-Hope. It'll be Jungkook. It'll be Jungkook and J-Hope, I think. Like, they're kind of calling and responding to each other all while the dance is going. I'll get to the dance break in a second, but very like you're moving. It's high energy going on.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't think about that because there is a move where they're doing like this, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, they're right. That is like them kind of like, yeah, miming going crazy, miming drinking.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Even the dancers, like you don't really, you can see all the dancing a lot more clearly in the dance practice, which is also really worth watching. But as I said, there's dancers behind them doing all the same moves as them. Like we're still kind of going like crazy here. There's also a part of this dance, which I would love to know if you have a thought on this, that it is the, oh, I was going to say about the tables and the chairs. They don't actually frequently use props in their performances.
Hmm.
Actually, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times they use props. So it's like kind of actually really cool. And it's different from them to be using these tables and chairs. But I was going to say there's a section, I think it's the pre chorus, where it's RM and Jin who are singing to each other. And the guys, all the other five of them, are doing this like, they do such a cool dance. Like, first off, it's a staggered dance. So, like, Jimin starts, then two, then two. Like, one starts and they keep doing it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I actually don't. I can't believe I didn't notice this.
It's
I've
again,
watched this like so many times. How
it
did I
might
miss
it
this?
might not be on camera. That's the thing. But it's like it's a point where Jimin like basically they do a stagger dance and then they're all in sync. Okay, again, this is my moment where I just got a fangirl. I'm gonna be fangirling a lot in this
Fangirl.
thing. So they removed it for in performances because it ended up just getting dangerous. But the original choreography, this is again the second. This is the second pre-chorus. But you can see it, I think, in one of the dance practices. The original choreography was that the five guys do a death drop. They just fall and catch themselves.
Oh my God. That's
And then
insane.
they're like, get back on their knees and they're still dancing. They're like, I'm like,
That is crazy.
it's crazy. And clearly it got cut because of safety, but it's like, if you were in this, doing this in the dance practices, that means you practiced this enough to do it. Like, you clearly, like, again, this performance is insane, even if that was not included. Um, but that's what I mean. Like they are pulling out all of these insane tricks. They've got this whole thing. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that staggering, or if you want to pause and watch it.
Maybe I pause and watch it for a sec.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find it. I would say just real quick that
Yeah.
like it was clear, like it was such a high engaged song that it is clear that even the camera people didn't know what to do. Like they didn't know where to point. At times they didn't know how to zoom out. Like it was clear that
Yeah.
the camera could not keep up with them. That's how high energy it was. And I didn't know
And
there was a behind the scenes rehearsal video.
oh yeah. And K-pop cameras are like literally this is K-pop. Like you have to know how to fix the camera. That's what all the jokes are, is that K-pop cameras know how to focus on who's they should be focusing on. Western cameras don't. So even if they're having trouble keeping up with this, that means this is high,
Yeah.
like next
It is
level.
clear. Yeah. No, they it's not that they miss it, they catch it, but it's just not clear.
It's
And then I
moving
found
so fast.
another, it's moving so fast and they're not capturing the full thing of what's happening. And then I found a video that was like a straight on shot of the performance, but the audio was bad. It was like someone just took it from the crowd.
Oh,
So it's
I
like you could
see.
see it, but the audio is just terrible, but you can kind of see like it. But yeah, no, it's easy to have missed things because it is so high energy. There's so much
Yeah.
to look at.
We probably should put the dance practice in the video just because it's really cool to see. You don't have to go see it, but it's just like if you want to see the details, there's an insane amount of details. Like I said at the beginning, like RM is on the table, so you're watching him, but the guys are doing like a sync dance behind him. Like there's a lot of details.
That is so cool. Yeah,
Uh,
something I don't know if this is the place to say it, but like it's so interesting because I got my partner to help to like give me his thoughts because he's a musician and stuff. And something he brought up was like they really lean into their strengths. Like they really lean into, because they're 7 boy bands, like they're able to hand off the focus to one another. And because you're handing it off between and amongst 7 people, it keeps the energy high. And they do a great job of highlighting each of the person's strengths, like whether that's rapping or
Mm.
dancing, like they, whatever it is that they're strong at, they showcase it in this performance.
Oh, I love that. And it's true. There's like a couple of moments where they focus, like V is very well known for like his facial expressions, and there's moments where you catch him and I'm like, yep, like he has that look of being like, I am in my element. I am the king of the stage. Like he just has the correct expression on his face, and you're like, yep, watching like people be on top of their game.
Mm-hmm. He's my favorite, so I do love those moments.
I feel. Um, do we want to jump in the dance break or do we have any other thoughts? I don't think we ever answered that question about the
Yeah.
staggering, but anyway, it's
Oh,
just a
yeah. No,
cool.
I think I caught it. I think I caught the staggering, but I don't even know if what I caught is the staggering. I think I just saw something like that.
It's,
So I'm not even sure.
I don't
Like,
know.
I have to go back and watch this now.
Yeah,
And I've
fair.
watched this like so many times in preparation for this essay.
I did that too. Um, they're probably, I don't know, choreographers out there. I would love to hear your opinions on what you think that was about because it's just my favorite part of the dance. I love the stagger. I love a good staggering movement. I always pictured the death drop, and even without it, like it's just a really great moment. So,
Yeah.
um, but the song is nowhere near over yet. Okay, so before I even get into the dance break, we then have a Suga solo moment with his rap. That's where we have the backup dancers, like I said, dressed in this Korean and black fusion kind of style. Um, all surrounded on him. They're all mimicking his movements, and we're gonna talk about actually one of his songs later. I'm just gonna say that like that actually kind of gets reflected again in that song. And then we get to the dance break. Okay, it is this long table, BTS 7 sitting at the center, and all the dancers are sitting with them. And they do this incredible, like, techno beat dance break where they're all extremely in sync. They do this, like, movement, and it starts with, like, Suga, like, he takes the cup, again, Dionysus, and he slams it down, and they all pop up. And they do this, like, in sync movement and then they'll go into more details. But then um, they switch to duo dances. So the boys are jumping again, jumping on and off the table and doing sync dances with each other. It's like J-Hope, Jungkook, Jimin V, RM, Suga, Jin, and then they there's like a moment of breath. You're looking at all just the 7 guys or 6 of the guys, and then RM jumps up on the table, but he's like, "Is you ready for this? Is you hyped up?" And then the song continues. Um, and then just because we're gonna just go over all the dance breaks together, there's towards the end there's another mini dance break where they're sitting at the table. They do another synced dance. They jump off the tables. And then the very end of the song is the dancers put the chairs on top of the table and they climb up, sit on the chairs, and the song ends with them just looking at the table. And it's a reflection of that first. I said that at the beginning of the song, they looked bored, they looked hungry, and now they look like satiated, exalted, like they're exhausted. This was such an insane performance. They're exhausted, but they look satiated. They're like exalted. They're like, yeah, that's what we just did. Like, and it's a really
Yeah.
cool like mirroring to each other.
Yeah. And it goes back to this idea of this being like a visual representation of I keep calling it a bacchanalia, but no one ever calls it that except for the book.
Bacchanalia is like almost has a negative connotation to it, but
Yeah, it
like,
does.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't mean, I guess Dionysia. Dionysia is the term. I think Bacchanalia because of that book, The Secret History. But
Oh.
Dionysia is a better term for it. But yeah, like it goes back to this idea of like it's a huge celebration for this thing to like honor the god Dionysus. And so that's why they have like wine and food and dancing and theatrics and stuff. And so they're acting as the gods that are like taking in all of this stuff and taking in this performance and being a part of it. And at the same time initiating it and like
Hmm.
arousing this like euphoria and this chaos and this like intense amount of feelings in the dancers, but also the crowd, and then they're like satiated by it. So it goes,
Yeah.
it's a perfect, I guess what you're saying is like, it's a perfect representation of what they're saying the music is. Like, they are the ones that are instigating all of this. Like they're the ones that are instigating this like huge performance and stuff. And then they're also being fed by it. So it's like a
Yeah.
circular thing. Like they are
Yeah.
creating the music and they're being fed by it, but it
Yes.
does take something for them to create it. And that's why they say in the lyrics,
Yeah.
like, what is it they say? Like there's a pain in creating, like there's a joy
Kind
and
of,
a
yeah.
pain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how they describe the song, the joy and pain in creating. I think that's
Yeah.
so accurate. Like in the song, they're kind of talking about getting everybody drunk on their art, and they're getting drunk on their art, and their art is the music. Like they're all getting drunk on it, but there's also a little bit of a dark side, or at least there was a lot of pain in creating it. And that's why it's like the broken thrisis. And we can go a little bit more into details of the lyrics. Okay, I was gonna say the dance break, which is really cool because it starts out slow mo. It's like the slow mo of being drunk. Like it's that little bit of like, oh, everything's about to get a little hazy. And then it kicks into high gear again. It's the buzz of being drunk. It's the buzz, it's the high. Um, and they also like there's a moment where they kick their feet up on the table as if they're like leaning back and kicking their feet up like they're in charge. This is something that BTS does really well in their choreography. I was gonna say their choreographer's name, but I don't know if it like Sun Sung Duk, but I don't know if he like does all their choreography. But he's like contributes a lot. But something they do in their choreography that I really appreciate is they're good at fast and slow. They're good. The thing about the choreography is that they're really good at fast and slow, where it'll be high move and then they'll hold it for a second or they'll have a slow movement. And that kind of keeps you engaged. Because I think if you're having something that's just high move after high move after high move, high tension, nothing then feels special. And if it's all slow, you're kind of losing interest, but that has that moment of like, almost that breath then makes you wait for the next moment and the next high gear. And that is shown throughout their choreography, throughout their discography. And you can see it here in the dance break. Like it's slow, it's fast, and you have all the moments. I love that they're all in sync. They're extremely, like, even that alone is showing off because you have, again, 20, 30 dancers there with you, plus the seven of them, and all of them are precisely in sync. By the way, it looks like a Last Supper to me. I wish that we had an HD photo of that because I just love that shot of all of them. But even just like showing off the level of synchronicity is really cool. Um, and then the couple dancing almost feels like the moment the alcohol becomes the art. It's like they've gotten drunk, now see what they can do. And it's really cool the way that they're moving in and out. Like they are uh like it starts with J-Hope and Jungkook and they jump up on the table, they jump over the table. Um Again, this is me being a fangirl for a minute. But J-Hope, because they themselves point this out in the behind the scenes. So J-Hope, when he jumps over, he jumps with one hand, and his other hand is extended, so it's like a perfect straight line. And you're just like, again, detail that no one else is going to pay attention to. But as the dance leader, he's going to pay attention to that. So they come, but they jump over the table, then they jump and disappear behind the table, and then Jimin and V, as they disappear, Jimin and V are like lifted up, and they no,
Oh, yeah.
RM and Jin are lifted up, and Suga gets lifted up, and then when they're done, they fall, and Jimin and V rise up. So it's like an illusion. They're creating the illusion. Like you're like, I don't even know what I'm seeing here. Like they're falling in and out. Like it's as if like switching in and out. It's almost like this like alcoholic days where you're just like you're in the moment. Like imagine when you're not that everyone's gotten drunk, but if you've ever gotten drunk at a party where you are just feeling good, life is all fun. Things are a little bit hazy right now. Like that is kind of the moment, and this is the moment that the alcohol is becoming the art, where you're just seeing something beautiful happen before you.
It's funny you say that because there's a point where they're like, it's the two dancing. I think it was the last two that dance, and they end by lying on the table. And then within a second, six of them pop up. And I rewound that so many times because I was like, how did they lie down on the table? Because they're dancing across the table
Yeah,
and then they lie down. And
and
within
all of them
seconds,
are.
six of them like go from a lying position on the table to up. And I'm like, how did they get on the table? I rewound it so
Yeah.
many times to try and figure out how the other four got on the table because they were literally like going
Yeah. It's only like
back and forth,
seconds
then
apart.
lie, and then they all stand up from the lying position on the table. And I was like, how did this happen? I don't know.
It's so fun to see. Like, and my favorite is the part where they fall and immediately the other ones come up. I'm like, what are we doing
Mm,
this? Like, it's so cool to see. And then, like I said, the second dance break, to me, it looks like they're scheming. Like it's them sitting on the table, kind of like doing like this. Again, I don't remember the move. So they're doing dances like this, but it's like they're all in sync. Like the seven of them are in sync. They're drinking and they're scheming and they're like, okay, like that's what they are as artists. Like they are scheming about creating their next arts, creating things, like scheming about being like, okay, like what next crazy art are we gonna make? Like it's a really cool thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why we say that this is like the euphoric part of the story of being an artist. Like we're getting a glimpse, like they're giving us a visual representation of what it's like to be so high off your art and so in depth in it. And we're seeing it in the performance about how detailed it is. And every aspect of the performance, from the clothes, the positioning to the dance, the choreography, and the lyrics, that like they're conveying this idea that it is like we're so on top of our game and we're so good at our game that like we can think this detailed, but like there is so much euphoria and there's such a high off doing this as well. And like thinking this complexly about our art.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so I saw that it took 3 months to prepare for this, which doesn't feel like enough time. There was 270 staff, 170 performers on stage, 30 makeup artists, and 218 stage costumes that were made for this.
Are you serious? That's insane.
Yeah,
I
crazy.
love it. And again, this is like not a concert. This is an award show. There's another award show where they do Dionysus. It's not as big as this one, but they do Dionysus again. Like,
Yeah,
so this is just
I saw
one
that too. Yeah.
performance. Like,
Yeah, this is just one performance. The other one I feel like wasn't, that one was done like later in the month, like a few weeks
yeah,
later.
that one was more straightforward, just the song, maybe one of the dance
Yeah.
breaks. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Because this is the first time they performed Dionysus, right? Like we didn't get a
I think
performance,
so.
we didn't get a music video. So this was the first visual performance of Dionysus.
I think so. I cannot quote that. As I said, I was not on the scene at that time. Um,
Yeah. Well, I tried to look for a music video, and the music video was like a fan made video. And then when I
oh
looked at
yeah,
any other
yeah.
performances, any other performance came after
I
this. So
see.
I couldn't
Okay.
find anything, but yeah,
That
we
makes
could be
sense.
wrong.
That makes sense. There's no music video for it. I don't know if they performed it at music shows. That's what I said. I was like, I'm not sure if it's a B track, but
Mhm.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out a couple of things from the lyrics that were really cool. Um, they make references to Korean folk music and Korean folk instruments that were particularly used at harvest time. I'm gonna please forgive me for pronunciation. They mentioned singing Ongya and Kwangwari, which is just like related to stuff about folk music, which is really cool because again, Dionysus is about fertility and about the thing. So I kind of was like, yeah, again, wishing for a good harvest, or they're harvesting this thing. Um, they talk about partying until the sunrise and working through the night, which is something that actually gets references in their earlier song, Dope. Like, Dope is about how they don't have time to party because they're working all night. It's kind of funny that they're like, no, 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 our work is the party. Um, they talk about breaking a new record is a race with themselves. Like, they are like, yeah, this competition's with ourselves at this point. They say, I'm still thirsty. Again, I things that maybe don't quote me on here, but I'm pretty sure J-Hope was like the main person behind this song. But that is a line like "I'm still thirsty" actually comes up in his solo song more. The idea of "I'm still thirsty," I still want more from this music career, and I still want more. I still want to do more. Um, I also so I just want to point out a couple of things from their lyrics. Oh, I forget the specific lyric, but like part of the thing they say like something like we're the best. This it's the best. It's the illest. Like this is so sick, and it's kind of like I don't know, double meanings of like illest as in again sick, but then also if you're getting alcohol poisoning. Um, they also talk about D style, and I was like, is that a hip hop reference that I don't know? And I tried looking it up.
Same. I didn't know what it was. I
And
was like,
D
is D
style
style a nickname? Is
is
D
D style
style what?
because the thing is like Suga uses like his alter ego for solo music is August D, and I was like, is it a August D reference? Or but I kind of figured I was like probably Dionysus. Like they're probably that's maybe what they're trying to say.
Oh, like D style. Okay.
D
Yeah,
style
that makes
maybe.
sense.
If it's a hip hop reference, I would love to know because I don't. But there's a line that I was really interested in that's like, here, kill it, let's steal it. And they're talking again about art, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. That was my question. I didn't know what that meant. That was like the one line that I was like, it feels very out of place if you read the lyrics of the song, but it's like, what do they mean?
I think that they're again leaning into what is the word? They're leaning into the rage and the chaos of Dionysus. Like Dionysus is like, again, he causes a party, but he causes also this excessive rage. He causes people get so worked up that they start killing. And like that was something that happened with a lot of his followers that they would like go into this rage rampage. Um, and maybe that's the reference that it's like, again, we're going so off the rails that we're like, let's kill it, let's steal it. Interesting lyrics.
Yeah. 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 I didn't. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
I can
know.
see that.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer for that one, but it was an interesting one nonetheless.
I know. I can't think. For some reason, it makes me think of the origin story of Dionysus,
Mm.
but I don't know.
Do you want to explain the
Yeah.
origin?
I don't even really know the origin of Dionysus, other than he's twice born, but the second time he's born, something about like his mom dies. Like
Yeah, yeah.
he's son of Zeus. His mom
Like a
is a
mole.
human. For some reason, like his mom is killed in a destruction of something, and then
Hmm.
Zeus sews him into his thigh, and he's
Hmm.
born again. I think he's
Hmm.
born again as like a full god. I don't
I
know.
think so, yeah. I want to say there's also pirates involved, but I think that might be a later story.
Yeah.
I definitely think I'm gonna say it has to do with the rage and
Yeah.
the destruction that alcohol and wine can create. You
I
know?
think it also goes back to your idea of like how they feel satiated off the art. Like it's
Mm.
like it feeds them. Like not like let's steal it, but like let's take this like high for ourselves kind of
Oh, I
thing.
love that. Okay, so talking all about Dionysus, we've been talking about how extravagant this was, how abundant this was, how they're gods and kings of the stage and kings of the K-pop industry and becoming kings of the music industry too. Why? Because there's a flip side to this. And that is what the rest of this essay is about. This is kind of where we're going to start talking about Black Swan. But we're going to take a really quick dive into Interlude Shadow, um, kind of as a transition. So, Interlude Shadow was a song that was released as a trailer to their next album and was included on their next album, Map of the Soul 7, which came out in 2020. So, just keeping again context, that MMA Performance was end of December. We're now in like January-ish, I think. Don't quote me on that. Um, and now we're getting into Map of the Soul 7, which is their next album. This is going to be their biggest album to date. Um, and Interlude Shadow is a solo song by Suga talking about, honestly, his fears of success. Maybe it's the quickest way to say that. Do you mind if I just kind of give a quick rundown on
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I didn't know that was a solo by Suga.
Hmm. A solo by
That's
Suga.
cool.
It's kind of talking about his journey so far and how this whole time he's been running nonstop and he's just been trying to see how far he can get. But the whole time that he's been doing it, the shadow behind him is getting bigger and bigger. And now he is at the top and he's scared. He says I'm scared of flying. It is lonely here. And there's a music video to this, but the main chorus of the song is like, please don't let me shine, don't let me down, don't let me fly. Now I'm scared. Like, and it's this idea of like you're top of the pedestal and you're terrified of heights. You're terrified. Everyone is looking at you. Everyone's watching what they're doing. And that was BTS's goal. Like kind of was they were just trying to see how far they could go. They wanted the success. They wanted to do this far. He says like I'm being swallowed by the monster of my own greed. Like they wanted all the success. And also, it's really scary. It's so much pressure. It's so terrified. And he is confessing this. Like, this is kind of, um, This is a kind of, again, going into the album itself, where Map of the Soul kind of goes through the different parts of the psyche. And this is the shadow part. This is the part where he's really afraid because the success is going to eat him alive. And I'm not trying to say that success is not a good thing. It is a good thing, but it is lonely being at the top, and it's lonely and it's scary, especially when everyone's looking at you. Everyone's expecting things of you. Everyone is placing, as I said before, that there was like, they're getting government recognition, they're getting international recognition, but there's also a lot of responsibility that comes with that and a lot of expectations that were coming with that. And that's kind of what he's talking about here. Um, and there's two specific quotes that I want to point out because they're going to come into how we talk about Black Swan. Um, there's a part of the song where it's as if the shadow is kind of talking to Suga, and the lyrics are, again, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, maybe a tiny bit, but all these lyrics are from Dulcet Bangtan. We're going to link them below. Um, the shadow is saying to him, I'll take away exactly as much as you have, that sometimes your rest can be your fall. Which is kind of, again, we're going to see that because this is around the time that they were experiencing burnout and they were afraid to take that break. And there's another line that says from the shadow that says, "You're me, I'm you, and you're not getting rid of me. And sometimes we will crash, so just accept it."
That's really cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know this. I didn't know the song very much, so I didn't know that's like what the lyrics were saying. So that's really cool. It fits very much into like them being vulnerable and this fear that they have of where they're at.
Mhm. Um, so now we're going to start talking about Black Swan, which is the flip side of Dionysus, and it's the, as I said, literally on Map of the Soul 7, it kind of goes from Dionysus, Interlude Shadow to Black Swan. Like we were so high, now we're looking at the shadow of it, and we're looking at those fears and that burnout. Okay, so Black Swan was the first single off of Map of the Soul 7. It was released January 17th, and it's a very emo rap trap kind of song. It's really introspective, and it is an incredibly vulnerable piece. It's about BTS confessing about their fear of losing their passion for music. Um, and that is incredibly personal. That's an incredibly vulnerable thing to confess, as we were just saying, that they're on top of the world. And so this got released with two music videos. The first one, it was released the same time as the single, and it's an art film. Featuring an interpretive dance performance by a Slovenian-based modern dance troupe, MN Dance Company. And in that music video, they use an orchestral version of the song. And this was also in line with the band's Project Connect BTS, which was like a global public art project that they were hosting at the time.
I just wanted to say, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, a Black Swan event is a high impact event that is difficult to predict under normal circumstances, but in retrospect, it appears to have been inevitable. A Black Swan event is unexpected and therefore difficult to prepare for, but is often rationalized with the benefit of hindsight as having been unavoidable. So I think that fits exactly. Like, I think they use the Black Swan film as like a concept as well, but like the whole, I mean, the plot of the ballet Black Swan aside, or Swan Lake aside, like the Black Swan idea is this idea like when you're at this peak of your career and it's this uncertainty of where to go, it's uncertainty of like, can you maintain it? Can you continue to push yourself? And like, you said that at one point they just really wanted to like chart, like be on the charts and be number one. And then they achieved that. And it's like, once you get past these first things and once you start achieving these milestones you set for yourself, like what comes with that? Like, how do you maintain it and how do you fall from it? So I like that, this definition of Black Swan event because it really speaks to this idea that like it was an inevitable part of their journey that they were going to have to contend with, like given that they were going the rate that they were going at.
Yeah. And it was a very almost breakneck speed. Like they were releasing 2 to 3 albums per year, which is normal for K-pop, but a crazy schedule regardless. And this is like, if you think of any big artists, like I said this earlier, I was like, anyone who's top of their game, that's not the time to get out. And it's definitely like, but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of artists who are at the top of their game and being like, I'm really scared. I kind of can't remember why I'm here. I can't remember why I'm doing this. And
Mhm.
so I think it's a very brave moment to release Black Swan and to make Black Swan the single. And to not even,
Oh.
we're about to go, we're going to talk about the two music videos. And I love that they first music video is this interpretive dance, modern dance performance because while BTS has always been like trying to do their best and trying to like achieve success and all, like they're always about the art and they brought this back to the art. And the art film music video starts with this quote from Martha Graham, who's a famous modern art dancer. And the quote is, "A dancer dies twice, once when they stop dancing, and this first death is the more painful."
So there's this theme of dying twice, which very much ties into the Dionysus theme because, like I said, Dionysus is known to have been born twice. And they say like twice born in the song Dionysus. And, there's this idea that I guess BTS to me is saying that they were born first as humans and they were born as artists. So it's interesting that they chose this quote by Martha Graham as their, I don't know what you call it. It was kind of like the
The
thought that
theme?
they had as they were the
Yeah.
theme, yeah, as they were creating the song is that like this idea of dying twice, first dying as an artist. And it's this idea of yourself as an artist, as like this performer, as this person who's at the height of your game and having to realize like who you are as this artist and then who you are outside of that.
Mhm.
And so I don't think we actually thought this intentionally when we chose these two songs, but it's interesting that it sort of covers this like life cycle of an artist through this lens of being born twice and then dying twice. So yeah, it's a very interesting theme we discovered in working on this.
Yeah. So that quote gets like reference in the lyrics itself. It's the song talks about um, what if their heart is no longer racing at doing music, and that would be their first death. And what if that's happening right now? This feeling of like their heart is no longer with it and feeling just trapped in this moment. It feels like they are being devoured by this like beast or something. Like they feel like they're in the jaw of like something that's eating them alive. Um, and then the second part and the second verse of the song is specifically J Hope's verse, and J Hope's verse says like, okay, like like the whole song is about this feeling of being trapped and you're sunk at the bottom of the ocean and you're like completely just under all this pressure. And he's like, okay, I'm going to choose to go deeper. I'm going to go where my feet are carrying me and I'm going to go into the depths. And he ends up finding himself. And Suga then picks that up and says, like, because I found myself, like, I'm not going to get dragged away. I'm not going to get succumb to all this pressure. Um, and they kind of like the second verse kind of ends with saying, like, nothing can devour me now. And I'm crying out defiantly. So it is this idea of losing yourself, but also like you might be losing your love of your art. You might be losing your love of music. You might be losing whatever has previously been driving you. But BTS also then turns it around as being like diving into who you are, diving into themselves. They still find who they are, and that is what they hold on to. It is who they are as people or humans or artists or whatever it is. They find something and they anchor it, and they're able to pull themselves back out of this like absolute terror that they're feeling. Oh, and there's this one other. Again, we'll kind of go a little bit more into this. You'll see this in the choreography, but there's just one thing I wanted to point out was like one of the pre-chorus lines is "Film it now," and it's very interesting because again, they have all these eyes on them, and so like in the middle of having this mental breakdown, they're like, "Yeah, film it," because like everything on them is on display. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know the pre-chorus line.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Um, so I'm going to describe the orchestral video. Like I said, it starts, or like Liana said, it starts with the quote by Martha Graham. And then it takes place in what looks like it's kind of a two-story warehouse, sort of
Yeah,
like a
like an
mall, because
abandoned.
there's
Yeah, I
a
think it's a
van.
mall.
Yeah, it's like an abandoned escalator. So yeah, it gives you like totally abandoned mall vibes. Like it's just two floors with no walls or anything, and it's all concrete. Seven dancers march out onto the second story, and they're all wearing suits except for the main dancer who is in dress pants but is otherwise shirtless. And then the other dancers sort of assemble around him and they begin dancing. And it's sort of like the other dancers are facilitating his movements, both in a way that they're controlling how he moves or also directing it. They continue to dance this way, and then a light jail appears of just strobe lights that form a jail around him. And the main dancer tries to escape it, and every time he does, he's dragged back by the other dancers. The jail breaks, and he's finally able to separate himself from the other dancers. And as he leaves, he's like descending the escalator, and the dancing is kind of like leaving his body, like he's moving less and less, and then he just kind of descends the stairs normally, and he's completely alone in this whole warehouse. And once he reaches the first floor, he begins to dance again. And it does kind of start out assisted by the other dancers, but it's not controlled by them the way that they were almost directing his movements before. And he starts to fight them off until the power sort of switches and he's almost controlling their actions and they're following him and what he's doing. And it ends the way it began, with the other dancers kind of around him, and they lift him up and his arms are fluttering as if he's flying. And we're going to link to it. It's a very beautiful video and it's a great dance performance. So definitely watch it. That's just to give you an idea of what we're talking about with it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that they were facilitating his movements. I guess it's the same thing, but I was seeing it as very much as controlling him. They kind of like, they make a movement where like, and he's moving very bird-like, almost animalistic, like, and the way he moves is just gorgeously, but they literally form the wings behind him, and then they kind of step on him, they kind of like jump off of him, like literally. Um, the lights form a cage, and he's trying to escape, and they literally pull him back, carry him back into the cage each time he tries to escape. And if you're watching with the lyrics on, it's when J-Hope says, "I saw myself," that he finally breaks free of the cage. Um, I love the idea of him descending the staircase just very quietly and simply, because that's what the song does. The song is like that the BTS says that they do in the song, that they're like, okay, I'm going deeper into this chaos. I'm going deeper into these shadows, into myself, like, and that is where they find themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting interpretation. Yeah, I think I said facilitating, but because it doesn't come off like, you don't really see it, like it's not antagonistic, but they're like moving his arms first, so it feels like facilitating.
It felt
Yeah.
antagonistic to me.
Oh, even from the start?
Maybe not the first movement, but definitely once the song
Yeah.
starts. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely see the controlling aspect of it.
Mm.
And yeah, and for me, I had a lot to say about this actually, because I think it's
Yeah.
very significant that they're all in suits. It's a very weird thing to be dancing in suits. And to me, like I watched it, it was beautiful. I had this whole interpretation like they're trapped by the music or they feel burdened by it. But then I was thinking about the fact that they're all dressed in suits, including him, who is in dress pants and like a belt, and it's taking place in a mall, which is like a place of commerce. And so I had this whole interpretation about how this is how, as artists, they become like almost a slave to like the corporate cog or to like the
Yeah.
financial aspect of it. And
Oh,
the other
absolutely.
dancers to me were like a representation of like this corporate aspect of the business that they are completely like driven by, and they're controlled by the money. Like it's like they're controlled by the money. It was
Oh.
important that it was in a place of commerce where things are sold all the time and it's
Mhm.
like abandoned. Um, and like, yeah, I just kept seeing like the backup dancers as like corporations, because at one point they step on him, they
Mm.
hold him, they lift him, they control him. Um, and then he's in the cage with them and they keep like dragging him back. And there's even a beautiful point in the cage, and you see it reflected in water too, which, if you think about it,
Oh.
is very, I don't know how they got this shot because there's water on the ground. So you see it as a shot and you see it reflected in water that he's like pulling back, and it's like his leg movements are rippling across the dancers, and it to me it created some kind of like downstream effect of like what they are doing economically and how it like
Whoa.
ripples across the like across down economy basically.
Uh-huh.
And I'm both amazed by the movement, but also like, how the heck did you get water on this ground in such a perfect way that you got this
I
shot?
did
Like, I
not
don't know how
even
they
see
did
that
it.
shot. I need to see that again.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. And they do lift him up, but like even that feels very controlled and very like
Hmm.
orchestrated in a way.
Hmm.
So when he leaves them, I saw that like when he finally breaks free, I was like, okay, now we have this first death, and he is like free to break free of these like commercial
Oh.
restraints or this financial burden that they have on him. And then once he's able to break free and he descends the stairs, like you said, then the art returns to his body. Like it almost like ebbs back into him the way that it ebbed out.
Hmm.
And it was like he's able to come back to it, but he's not controlled by these like financial things or these corporate things or these like financial decisions or these marketing aspects of
Oh.
it. And he's able to throw off, like, he's able to not be influenced by how it's supposed to look or how
Mm-hmm.
he's supposed to move, and
Mm-hmm.
instead he controls them, and he's able to say like, I am the one in power. And it becomes, like you mentioned, it's antagonistic, but he's literally like kind of
Mm-hmm.
throwing the dancers over his shoulders. And then it gets to a point where he's doing a move and then they're copying him, and it becomes
Oh.
like more mirroring
Uh-huh.
of him and what they're doing. And it ends by them reverting to the beginning. But in the beginning, they were literally like kind of
Move.
acting like they were moving his arms. And this time they don't do it. And instead he is just moving his arms and they're just around him.
And
And
holding
then
him
they
up.
lift him up and
Yeah.
he's like free doing the like Swan Lake arms. And
Oh. That's a
yeah. So
fantastic interpretation.
yeah, thank you. Because I was just like, why are you dancing in suits? But it,
Yeah.
you know, I think with BTS, but there's a lot of artists that are number one artists that are very enslaved by the control over their image, the control over what they do. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
very beholden to it. And I think it's amazing when you have like these huge corporations behind you, but you're also very enslaved by it because you
Mm.
are so, you're a money making things. You could like everything you
Yeah.
say, do, wear, appear, all has to be controlled by all these people that are making money off you. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like it can be like it could be like a jail, and it can feel like you're trapped and you're so stifled as an artist.
Absolutely. I my interpretation was different, but in the way of like, so my interpretation was like the other six dancers, and like again, seven dancers, but like the other six dancers were the shadows, and he is the artist, or he's BTS, like competing against the shadows. And part of those shadows are this corporate responsibility or this like capitalistic like commitment. And it is absolutely that drains it. But for me, it felt more abstract. And I appreciated the fact that it was more abstract because then you could insert what it feels like to you. Like this, we're talking about successful artists and their fears of their own success. But this is also could just be a story of any artist and their own pressures and fears. This could also not be about art at all. This could just be about someone who is struggling with their day-to-day pressures and responsibilities and fears. And the story still remains the same of being like you feel trapped, and by finding yourself and breaking free of that, you can find strength and you can find your own freedom and your own wings through it. Like it's something that I think shows up a lot because this also shows up in that album 26 Wings is like you can't run from your fears, you can't hide from your fears, you can't run from these shadows, but it's embracing them, it's about facing them, it's about dealing with them as they are, and that will take you to new heights and new freedoms. And that's kind of exactly what happens in this music video. It's like he was being controlled by them, but he's able to then control them and allows
Hmm.
him to take on new heights.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of saying it too. And I think it's very important to say that like the physical descent down the escalator, like you said, coincides with this physical descent going deeper into the fear instead of running away from it and
Mm-hmm.
instead of like shying away from it, it's like facing it and going deeper. And in facing it, he's able to gain the strength to like not con I guess control it. Yeah. Control the
Yeah.
fear and have it work alongside him and alongside them as artists.
Yeah. And I think that's something that is really powerful no matter what we're talking about. Being able to face your shadows or your darkness or the things that we're running from is so powerful, and it gives us strength, it gives us resilience, it's like when you hit a wall and you're like, I don't know how to get past this. But if you're like, hey, I'm gonna keep working at this, you're gonna get past it. At least that's what we hope we do. I can think of like there's several songs I think that have similar themes. And particularly one that comes to mind is Taylor Swift's like I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Great song. Like Taylor Swift is a great artist. She's also really on top of her game. And this is not in any way like me trashing. But that song, I think, while it's a great song and very beautiful, like it is very specific to her story. It is her telling her own heartbreak while being on tour. And it is that same idea of being like, I'm at the top of my game, and also I'm going through this extremely devastating moment. But I think what BTS does with Black Swan is kind of it is talking about their own story. This is none of us are really going to be able to relate to what BTS are going through, but we can relate to this feeling of being trapped, or we can relate to this feeling of I forgot why I'm doing this, or I forgot why I love this thing. I can't remember what I'm doing here. I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling hopeless. I'm feeling like other people are controlling me. They have a personalness to their lyrics. They have this truth and its own vulnerability, and then they pull it back just enough. This is such good writing. Shout out to RM, who's a major songwriter on all of these. I think he wrote this one. Like, they pull it back just enough to be like, make it universal and to make it to be like, hey, even if you don't know my exact position, you know that what this feeling feels like. And that is a really, really beautiful thing that BTS does. And that's kind of what this whole song is about.
Yeah. I don't think there's a lot of stories that talk about this. And it's like, I don't want to say it's like this fear of potential, but it is like, it's this fear of doing something and this fear of putting all of your into it and not knowing where it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's kind of past the point of them just betting on themselves because they've already bet on themselves, but it's like, how do you keep doubling down and how do you keep
Yeah.
pushing and going? And I forgot what else I was going to say, but yeah, like it's, I do recognize that. I recognize that fear. I can recognize like this. Like, I think a lot of people in their daily lives, or sometimes they're in this place where they're like, I'm just afraid to bet on myself. But it's a continuous choice and it's betting on yourself in new ways. And yeah, there's something else you said that I thought was really good, but I can't remember.
Oh no, I hope you remember it.
Yeah.
Um, and even in this moment of like betting on yourselves, like this is betting on themselves. This was, again, people at top of their game are not trying to, that's not the time to get out of the game. Like, and so for them, basically what happened was like what their plan was before the pandemic was, and they said this, they announced this much later, but what their original plan had been was to release this album, go on world tour, announce hiatus, where they would go on break, do solo stuff, military, etc. And instead, like they, as I said, continued. Um, but that's crazy. That is so crazy to say that you're like, hey, we were at the stop, but they wanted to stop because literally they themselves have said, like, I don't remember why I was doing this. I don't know who we are as BTS. And they also said they're like, I can't put a pen to the paper anymore. Like, I don't know what to say. And I think that that feeling if you don't know what's happening next is a very scary thing to admit. I think it is a very terrifying thing. And I personally find a lot of comfort in the song of being like, okay, I can be in this incredibly dark moment and I'm gonna and they're not guaranteeing that there's a happy ending, but I'm gonna trust that I'm like, hey, if I go back to remembering who I am, I might be able to find my way back out of this. Okay, so this music video was released after the Map of the Soul 7 album. It was dropped out of nowhere, no advertisements. It was a great day. So the art film was an orchestral version. This is the emo hip hop trap actual song. And it was filmed in the Los Angeles Theater, which is a historic movie palace from the 1930s. And it's really gorgeous, decadent, heavy culturally and historically. I did just want to point out this something about the lyrics. There's a lot of in-depth lyrics. I've written an entire essay on this music video and lyrics. But the chorus of the song references being stuck at the bottom of the ocean. And this is a reference to a hidden track from 2017 that they released called Sea. And in that song, this is when they were still kind of rising to fame, struggling and all, still trying to figure their stuff out. And the song Sea is about they're in the desert and they're trying to reach the sea. They're struggling, they're trying to reach their success. And so this song, talking about being in the ocean, they have reached their success and they are drowning. They're at the bottom of the ocean. There's no light, there's no sound. They're just completely buried under tons of water. And that's really important because it's going to show up in the choreography. But let's talk about the visual composition of the Black Swan music video.
Yeah, this one's a lot harder to talk about because it's definitely more music video style. But Like Liana said, it's filmed in the Los Angeles theaters. So it begins with all of them on stage with overhead lighting. They're in white suits that all have black accents to it. And it's a black stage, and it is like the Los Angeles theater stage. And it's intercut with different shots of the band and also them individually or in duos at different parts of the theater, like either in the outside in the lobby or upstairs in the balcony or in the rehearsal room. Like it's it's kind of intercut. And as the video it transitions to them being on stage. You're looking at it as if you're in the audience. There's harsh overhead light to it transitions slowly visually and just lighting wise to you're then standing behind them as they are facing you, but their back is to the stage. There's a spotlight on them, so they are cast in the shadows. Sometimes you still can't see them. So it's just basically like a visual transition of them being white outfits, harsh white lighting, black background, to them sort of being in the shadows. They all transition into black outfits with the lighting behind them. Yeah, and then like I said, they have individual like moments where they're interacting with the physical shadow that is in the filming with them, like the shadows behind them. There's moments with interacting with it. Jimin has a lot of solo dancing in this music video, and I did definitely want to touch on Jimin's dancing at some point.
Yeah. So, actually, before we jump into Jimin's solo dancing, I just want to say, like, yeah, we see shadows literally looming. So you'll have Suga crouched on the stage, and there's a huge shadow being projected behind him, and RM will be in the foyer, and there's a huge shadow on the ceiling above him. But as it goes, like there's especially when we get to the second verse with J Hope and Suga's rap lyrics, like they kind of like fully go into the shadows, and then the shadows disappear. Like they are now like more, the shadows become smaller and more controlled, like we saw in the art film. Like by facing them, they're able to control the shadows and become something that's not going to eat them alive.
Yeah, like that was my interpretation. Like I said, I asked my partner who's an artist, and he was like, that was his interpretation too. It's like sometimes when you have this thing that's eating at you as an artist, the only way to face it is to like give into it and go into it and like yeah, basically like face it. And once you face it, then that taunting of the shadow, it like disappears and subsides.
I love having his opinion on this as well, especially because he is an artist. Like I do love having his opinion. So
Yeah.
thank you
And he
very
wasn't
much.
even he had like the translation, but he wasn't like reading the translation. So he was getting a lot of this just from visually watching it. He wasn't even like reading the lyrics.
Which is amazing. And again, they can tell, like that's what BTS does, is they can tell these stories. They're telling the stories in multiple ways, both through the music, through the lyrics, through the visual composition of it, through the choreography. Like you are getting the story here. Just as an example, I mentioned that the ocean in the chorus, but a producer pointed out that I forget, there's a part of the song where he's like, it sounds like the lyrics are muffled. Like there's this, the beat or something is
Oh.
muffled as if it's underwater. Like
Oh.
it was really cool. So I was like, again, they're doing multiple things here. Anyway, Jimin is kind of, I would say, the protagonist of this music video, which makes sense. He is a trained modern dance artist or contemporary dance. So this is this moment to shine. Um, and he's doing this beautiful dance alone. I think he's in all white, completely surrounded by blackness. And you don't even really get to see his face through most of the performance. But he's dancing. It's kind of intercut with the other shots. There's a moment when he's in the audience, and he's just like, and the camera's far away. He's so small, and there's like shadows, of course, all around him. But then as we start to get to the turning point of, and if you have more to add to this, but as we're starting to get to the turning point of the song, we get everyone on a close up standing on the staircase, but then we get Jimin on the stage and wings burst forth from him. This is the moment in which they are taking control of their own shadows.
Yeah. Like the song starts with Jimin dancing, and it's important to note that when they're all in white with like the black accents, like he has black feathers all down his side, and he's very much like spotlighted in a lot of the dancing. He's either in the center of the dancing or he's like yeah, like he ends up in the center or something. And yeah, like when they have a close up on each of them, his close up is from behind. And that's the first time that we get the shift perspective of of the filming. So before that point, you're always filming the group from the front with that light overhead. And then when you get this shot of Jimin where the spotlight is coming and we're looking at him from behind, it's almost like to the side. But after that, the perspective on the dancers change and we don't see them. I think we see them in black. Like it's interesting because when they're on stage, they're in white. When they're in black, they're off stage. But
And
once we
very,
see him,
Mhm.
oh yeah,
I was gonna say very specifically, their white is transitioning to black. I think there's some feathers
yeah.
on some of them, but it's as if the ink is like curl dry going up
Yeah,
their
it's different for
arms
each
or
of them. It's
something.
like their
Like
sleeves will be black or their shirt is black or like some part of them is
it's
black.
like
But I think he's the only one who
transitioning.
has,
Yeah, I think he
yeah,
might be the only one who has
exactly. So
feathers.
yeah. So I take that as like the shadow has already like entered the picture. Like
Mm.
it's not like they're in this place of it hasn't entered, like it's already entered their consciousness and their mind.
Mhm.
But yeah, once you get the shift perspective of him, then it shifts for everybody. And once
Oh.
he shifts into black, everybody shifts into black.
Oh, I never noticed that.
And yeah, like there's a lot of him. There's this point where he's dancing and they're all in a line and the camera is like moving up the line and they're all doing
Mhm.
the same dance and he's doing like a very erratic
Yeah.
dance between them. And so it made me think that he was a representation of the shadow, or he is a representation of like the black swan, because he is
He's the
always
black swan.
spotlighted in a different way than the rest of them.
Yeah.
And he has the feathers on him. So I'm like, he is the
Yeah.
black swan
He
and
is the
he is
black
the
swan.
solo dancer. And he is the one who shifts first and then everybody else shifts. And then he is like, his dancing is always erratic. And when you see the dancing shadow, I'm assuming it's him because it's
Yeah.
mirroring
Yeah.
the image of him actually dancing. Like it's the
Yeah.
same moves. So I'm like, oh, he is a representation of that black swan.
And I'm thinking Black Swan in the terms of a Black Swan event. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he is the moment of turmoil,
yeah.
and or he's the one who's dealing with the turmoil, and then by finding his way, the others find their way.
Well, I also was thinking of it like the Black Swan movie. Like he's the Mila
Oh,
Kunis,
oh,
which I don't know.
interesting.
Have you seen it?
I haven't. I need to see it.
Okay. Yeah,
It
maybe you see, you might understand. But
no, no, I
she's
know what you
like,
mean. Yeah.
yeah, she's like the physical representation of like this Black Swan concept. And so that's what I thought with him. Like
Hmm.
he is the physical Black Swan that they're
Oh,
seeing.
interesting. Interesting. I love that. I was going to point out that um yeah, so we're talking about the stage and like just to kind of clarify what we're saying is like initially they're performing to the audience, but by the end of it they're performing almost to the back of the stage, but it's like performing for themselves. Like their backs are literally to the audience. But there's also this they I found it really intentional the way they go through the different things. Like there's they start on the stage, but then they go to the foyer and the lobby. Like it's these kind of behind the scenes state rooms, these kind of where they're confessing their fears off the stage. And as I said, Shugo's on the stage and he's crouched and he's so tiny. And Jimin's on the stage, but you can't even see him. And then once they find themselves, they're in the rehearsal room. They're in the rehearsal room. It's well lit. There's no shadows, and like it's initially just J-Hope and Suga, but then all of them are in the rehearsal room, and it's kind of like again this behind the scenes, the what they're going on, literally going what's going on behind the scenes, literally. And there's also the scene of Jin walking into a room full of mirrors. I took it as like the dressing room, kind of. He walks into a room full of mirrors and he looks at himself in the mirror and he's able to like face himself. Like, I thought that was also a really good representation of their story of being like, this is what we look like to everyone else, and this is what we're actually going on, what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. That's so cool. I didn't realize the rehearsal space had no shadows, but you're right. It
I
was the
don't think
only
so.
place that they're not casting shadows, and
Mhm.
they do all end up there. So that was cool. And
Mhm.
you had said to me too, the mirrors represents like he turns and it's still all the mirrors of him, and it's like he is the crowd that he is trying to please. Like you had said that to me.
Oh, I said that?
You seem surprised, but you're the one that originally said that in our like pre-meeting.
The end, like we were saying, so again, they're at the end that they're facing away from the audience, and now they're basically at the end they look like silhouettes in their final form. It's like the shadows are long before them, and you can just see like their silhouettes and their shadows. But it's really cool because they're kind of mixed. It kind of looks like a mixed imagery, as if you're like the shadows and the silhouettes are all together. But it ends with this little short clip of Jungkook, and he's on the balcony, and he's looking out, and there's a shadow on the stage, but as he's looking, the shadow shrinks and it disappears, and then he's like, okay, and then like leaves, like, so in a
Yeah.
way that they've conquered their shadows.
Yeah. And, like there are different times where whenever you see them behind the stage, I think before the turning point of the song, like they're not dancing, they're not performing. If anything, they're really like feeling themselves. Like they may be moving and dancing, but they're not performing. It's not much of like a big performance dance until all of them are in the lobby. But they're
Mm.
much more just like talking to the camera, and it's much more
Yeah.
personable and much more like feeling themselves and like rapping.
Mhm.
Um, and then, did you say it was Jungkook who was on the balcony? Because there's one point, I think, after the turning point of the song where
Hmm.
he like lets
Yeah,
himself
that's
hang over the
Jungkook.
balcony.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was beautiful because it was like it really was a like I can just like it's the
Let
motion
go.
of like the Black Swan. Like it's a similar to what Jimin did. It's that same motion, but he really is just like letting go
Hmm.
of
Like
it and
leaning
like
over the balcony.
yeah, and like submerging himself in it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You also mentioned the lobby. Like, so they do group dances on the stage, but they also do in the lobby, and that's like when they're all dressed in black. And that's where kind of that it's the chorus, and that's where the chorus of like the ocean comes up because it's like they're sliding, they kind of like are sliding across the floor. Like Jimin is like literally like zigzagging across the floor, and they're like on the ground reaching out as if they're like again like kind of trapped at the bottom of something, like they're like kind of drowning, like they're it's this very again relates to the lyrics even if you don't know what the lyrics are. I'm gonna actually really quick because you can't see a lot of the official choreography for Black Swan in this music video. I'm gonna actually tie in the James Corden performance because the James Corden performance is was the first time that they performed the song. And you can obviously see the choreography a lot better there. And again, the James Corden performance has a lot of similar ideas here, just taken in a different way. So it's very Swan-like inspired. It's a forested background. There's like misty and night and cool, like a magical forest. It looks like there's water on the ground and there's like little bushes and trees and all. And they are, again, all wearing suits, but they're barefoot, which was a little fun, interesting tidbit. And so you can see a lot of cooler things about the choreography that might have gone missed. So the song starts and ends the same way, like they are all posed and then they like start into it. And it feels like stepping out of a painting for a moment, which is, I mentioned way earlier, we saw that in Dionysus, but like this is like stepping out of painting. And then they doing like hitting bells, which is kind of like what it sounds like at the beginning, things like din, din, din. Um, Again, there's a scene where like there's a dance movement that didn't make sense until this performance. That it's like they're kind of swiping the floor, but it looks like they're looking at the reflection in the water. They're like kneeling and like swiping their hand, but it looks like they're swiping their hand through water, like as if they're swiping through the reflection. Um, there's also so there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of especially when Suga and RM rap at the beginning, the others dance around them as if like they're the shadows. They're shadows like kind of circling them or like coming up behind them. Um, there's a moment when Jungkook's like they're all kind of circle Jungkook and he breaks free. Again, I said Jimin slides across the floor. There's a, as Shalini pointed out, there's a moment where like they're all dancing in a line and Jimin is just doing his dance in front of them. Um, I was also going to really say that like this is the kind of cool thing about Black Swan is that it's a very modern art dance. and and there's even several points where they're like moving with this bird-like movement, which is very like you'll see it much more in modern dance. And it's really cool because they're not trained in modern art, modern dance, except for Jimin. But they managed to do it beautifully and managed to get the emotions across, even if they're not like professionally trained in this kind of dance, which I just again makes them really great performers. And it reminded me of Spring Day, which is another one that I think uses modern dance elements to it. Um, There was a lot of just little tidbits about the choreography, but essentially that choreography, I think using the modern art, modern dance, adds to this introspection of the song. It's not this high pace, high energy of Dionysus. It's not the high pace energy of most of their songs. It is both this one and Spring Day are very slow songs, very introspective. And this one is a lot of visually them facing their shadows and facing themselves.
Yeah, that's a very good point because it's like we keep talking about how high energy Dionysus is, and Dionysus was a live performance, but so is the James Corden one. But like, it is a distinct difference. It's not high energy and it's much more introspective. It's much more like interacting with the shadow. Like, there's themes of shadows, there's themes of mirroring in front of the mirrors, but also mirroring each other in
They mirror each
motions and
other.
stuff like that.
And
Yeah, and it's just, yeah.
I remember when Black Swan came out that people were kind of like, what is this? Like they were a little like people were like, oh, the choreography is really simple. Like, why is it boring? Like it was kind of like it was unusual for BTS because BTS are known for this high performance, high energy kind of stuff. And that's the point. It was supposed to be, and like again, this was a moment. It's funny that the song is about them losing their touch with art because the song is so focused on art. It is from the art film to the Connect BTS Global Art Project to the music video to shooting in the Los Angeles theater to using modern dance. Like all of these are about celebrating art, about connecting with these beautiful mediums of art across the things, not just K-pop, not just music, but across the board, connecting with art. And in of itself, it is an art piece. And it's so crazy because it's like, look how much you love this thing. Look how much this is like part of how you move and breathe as artists. And also I get it that you like, and I think maybe at this point that they had kind of come to terms with where they were at, but like you were so afraid to lose this, but also look how much this is a part of who you are.
Did you have any? So, shall we wrap up with some closing thoughts about the film? About the films, anything we've seen or watched?
I have so much more I could talk about this. There's so many other details, references to other songs, details in the choreography. I just want to give you a taste of what's going on here. And I was kind of the one, I started this off because I wrote a whole essay about the Black Swan music video, and which will be linked below. But I love Dionysus and I loved MMA 2019 Performance. This was basically my excuse to be like, I want to get more people to watch this. So this was my whole reasoning why I wanted to compare the two. And I think it's a really cool comparison. I don't see a lot of people talking about how BTS has always been about embracing the light and the darkness in our lives and about kind of being like, hey, things we can look at the good stuff and we can look at the bad stuff, and we are not afraid to face both of them. And even if we are afraid, we're still going to face both of them. And I think that was really cool, and this was a really good example of it.
Yeah. Something I just thought of is like they really inspire me to not be afraid of the greatness inside of you, like to not be afraid of like how amazing and awesome and talented you could be because you're afraid of where it might go, where it might lead, or like afraid of losing it. That
Mm.
shouldn't stop you from just embracing all of the parts of you that are great and showing the world how great you are and sharing that talent with the world.
I love that. I love that. Again, both of us have watched this multiple times, but I love that we have different takes and interpretations. We're able to like bring different ideas to it. I appreciate that your partner was like bringing in different ideas. Like, I think that's what I was talking about, the universality of it. That it's like, hey, this is their story, but they make it in such a way that we all can reach it and we can all find what we need from it. Um, this is one thing I actually wanted to point out, and it's not really related, but this has always been my favorite lyric from BTS. And it's always what I think of when I'm thinking about facing my own shadows is this is from Intro Nevermind, I think, which is like 2016-ish. But it's if you think you're gonna crash, then accelerate, idiot. And it's kind of harsh. It's kind of you're like, what? But I love that line. And I've said that line to myself so many times because I'm like, if you don't know where you're going, if you think this is all gonna blow up, just keep going, crash, then accelerate. Then you're like, okay, just keep going. Because I don't know, you might find it on the other side.
Yeah, that's a great line.
I don't even know if I'm explaining it properly in all honesty, but
I think that's totally fine. I think that it could be left up to interpretation, but
left up to
yeah.
interpretation.
So as we explained, we're kind of examining these two songs between 2019 and 2020. And we explained, as of 2022, they've been on hiatus. But there's a reason that we wanted to talk about all this now. And the reason is
They're back.
they're
So
back. BTS is back together.
it is the best moment ever. It was a highlight. So yes, they went on hiatus in 2022, did solo work, went on military enlistment, and they were all fully discharged and reunited in 2025, the summer, and almost immediately jumped back into creating an album, which is again very unusual, very unprecedented. Like it was very fast. Like they were basically making music again by like August. But anyway, we have been hearing about the album. The album is coming out this week, although I'm not sure when this is going to
Yay.
get. I'm not sure when this is going to get posted, but it's coming out March 20th. Um, and we're so excited about this. But specifically why we're all tying this back in together is because the album is called Arirang, and it is them going back to their roots. It is them going back of who they are, what their music is about, and their Korean identity. Arirang is an old Korean folk song about loss and reunion. And this is about BTS reuniting, but this is also about BTS returning back to what got them started in the beginning, which is probably going to be a lot of hip hop. I'm going to be honest. That's my one prediction. But it's going to be Korean influence. It's a huge cultural influences already. If you look up some of the promotion, they've already been pulling a lot of really deep cuts. Kind of crazy. Um, and that I think ties back into what we've been talking about, that's what Black Swan is all about, was about finding themselves again in the midst of all this turmoil, in the midst of all this burnout that they were going through. They had to dig deep and find out who they were. And that's what they're doing again, is that they're finding out who they are by going back to who they've always been. And so very, very excited. Probably by the time you might be watching this, the album might already be out. I don't know. You might be watching this after the album comes out, but we hope you enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it, Shalini.
I know. I'm excited. It got me hyped up. There's also like this Netflix video that's coming out, and you sent me the trailer, and it looks awesome. And it's streaming like 6 a.m. Saturday.
It's a live
No,
show, their
7.
comeback show. Yeah, 7 o'clock, I think. It's like
Yeah.
the live show.
Yeah.
It's big. So we mentioned that they were big during the pandemic. Like they're partnering with Netflix now. Like this is some next level stuff.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen Netflix live stream a concert. Oh, maybe they have. They may
They
have.
definitely have.
Yeah. Like pandemic stuff. Yeah.
It's very funny. They definitely did have done stuff for Beyonce that I think it's not the Super Bowl, but they've definitely done live shows. But it's funny because this is just side notes now, but Netflix just released an announcement yesterday that they're like, we are reinforcing all of our internet and servers, and we've got a whole new system set up in order to prepare for this. And we're like, we hope you do, because if you crash in the middle,
I
they're
feel like they still might.
they're expecting big time. Apparently, they have like even South Korea itself is like preparing all of their Wi-Fi servers and preparing
Oh,
all
good.
like,
I
it's
feel like it
expected they
still
were
could.
big.
That's going to be a lot. Oh my gosh. It's going to be like their number one watch show. But I'm glad Netflix is doing it because they have such a huge budget. So it's going to be a really good production.
Yeah,
I hope
it's
they're pouring into
the
this.
director of the show is the same guy who did the last couple of Super Bowl shows.
Oh, good. Yay.
Yeah,
Including
so
Bad Bunnies.
I think Bad Bunnies. Yeah, it was Bad
Nice.
Bunnies the last 3 or 4, something like that. He's done the
Oh,
last couple of
nice.
ones.
So basically, Rihanna, Kendrick Lamar, Bad
Yeah,
Bunny.
yeah. So we're in good hands. Going back to their roots, there's a lot of references also to old Korean royalty, which is just again going back all the way back to Dionysus, like again, kings of the game. But I am very proud to see that they have come so far and both that they've been able to stay together even through really dark times. And I wish that for everyone, that I hope that we can go through dark times and find ourselves through it.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Real Thesis podcast.
Thank you so much for
We hope
joining
you
us.
we hope you enjoyed it. Liana, thank you so much for joining us and bringing your analysis. Where can we find your work?
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and yap about my favorite stuff, including BTS. I've long been waiting to talk about this. just before I tell you where to find my stuff, I want to point out that I was like, we're not simply doing this just because the album came out. Like, I have been asking to do this at least for a year.
Yeah, this has actually been in the works, I think, for close to a year. We were talking about this in like May, March, and April last year, if not
Mhm.
February. So yeah, it's been over a year in the making, and it just happened to coincide that it worked out this way.
Yeah. So you can find me um, on, I have multiple places. So you can find me on the Medium at Liana Writes 350 and on Substack at LM Radio. And then I'm also on Tumblr for both of those. They'll all be linked down below. I write about basically music and artists that I enjoy and I like analyzing. So there is a full breakdown of the BTS music video for Black Swan on there. And again, I just really appreciate being included here. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and thank you. We're definitely going to include all your links. We're going to definitely link your BTS essay. And if you guys want to have Liana back for a analysis after the new BTS album drops, definitely shout out in the comments and maybe we'll get her back to tell us your thoughts on the album and how you feel about it. So, yay. Thanks for joining us and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you, Shalini.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Well, do you want to start by telling us your outfit that you chose today?
Yes. So I am wearing my Shuga shirt made of lots of little Shugas. And
How is
I,
it? Is it like, oh,
so
I see. Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, it's like, and that goes all the way down, but it's like made of little Shugas. And then I'm wearing the Love Yourself hearts from the Love Yourself Answer album.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.